Welcome to Student Connections, where our students connect with their community.
Hello and welcome to Student Connections on M6, your hometown station. I'm Charlie Donahue, and here today with me is professional singer Miss Barbara Payton. Thanks for coming today, Miss Payton.
Thank you for having me.
So, Mrs. Payton, were you always interested in becoming a singer?
Not necessarily a singer. I wanted to be a performer. My favorite artist was Bette Midler, so I aspired to be like her.
Very cool. So what were the first steps you had to take in order to start your career? Because we all know singing is not something easy to jump into, or performing for that matter.
Oh, I'm glad that you mentioned that and appreciate that. It isn't. I think it looks a lot easier than people think at times. And both of my parents are music teachers. They're retired music teachers. And so it wasn't a matter of whether or not you were going to be involved in music, because I was immersed in it. You know, it was just a natural progression for me. So I started singing very early on in the church, and then I discovered music outside of the church and started going to some clubs to see bands and fell in love with rock and roll, and it just one thing led to another.
Very cool, yeah, and it's almost like that it has a story feel to it, you know, because you started in the church and then you work your way through. It's kind of, you would almost expect that in a way. So what were some of the challenges you faced originally when you were starting to break into the industry?
Let's see, personally, I think it was that at the time that I started singing in bands and clubs, it was all about pop music, and I definitely have a more rock blues voice. So I was trying to, you know, fit myself into a genre that I didn't necessarily excel at. So I had this rock, raspy voice singing Whitney Houston songs or Madonna tunes, and because you had to do what the club owners, you know, would ask of you at the time. And so that was difficult for me. And it's definitely a man's world more so at that time. And there were a lot of, you know, women that I was influenced by, such as Chrissie Hynde from the Pretenders and Ann Wilson from Heart, and a lot of those type of singers. But still, even in the circuit that I was in Detroit, it was mainly men that were controlling the music scene. Okay,
and like you said, how the club owners, they made you, you know, perform certain songs. What do you remember? Any of the most extreme songs that you had to sing out of your range?
Maybe the most ill-fit songs for me. Yes. Well, Whitney Houston, she would have been one of the first ones with "How Will I Know" and "Want to Dance with Somebody" and those kind of songs. And I'm an alto. And so in order for me to try and attempt to do those kind of songs, we had to lower the keys, and so it was comical at times, but it also was challenging for me to stretch my range. So.
And the great thing too is, even though it did ill-fit you a little bit, it was still good to grow your voice, like you said, because it was a challenge. It was still helpful there. So how did you manage to get your first major gig? I know you said you were going to clubs and just singing there. How did that begin?
I found an audition in a paper, and I think it was Royal Oak. And I actually went to a basement audition and just sang whatever songs that we could agree on that I maybe knew and they knew, and so the gentleman's name was Matt Walsh, that was the head of this particular band, and I just saw him last week. We laugh about how that was over, I don't know, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when he first hired me. And we were called Pop 5 for Population 5, and we played some pretty interesting gigs and made our way through, and we lost our very first gig, as a matter of fact, because I choked on the gig.
Oh, you're kidding.
And so we lost that gig, but it was a rude awakening, and we just built up our confidence from there on out, and had a good time together, and more than anything, really solidified a lot of good friendships.
Wow, that's very cool, though, you know, being able to start with a group like that, though, you know, to begin the career. So when did the opportunity arise to do vocals with Mr. Bob Seger? I know that was one of the big things that have been talked about.
I became dear friends with a man who was doing his sound, among many other things. And so he called his manager, Punch Andrews, and let him know about me, and that perhaps they'd want to come out and hear me sometime. So Punch came to one of the clubs, and I didn't hear anything from them for years, but Bob wasn't touring for a long time. He took a long hiatus to raise his family. And then I got a call one day to go to his home studio up in around the Clarkston area. And so I went there, and I sang on one of his tracks from his Face the Promise CD, and then they started kind of putting me through the paces at rehearsals to see if I could handle it and if I'd want to become one of the singers.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, did you actually know that his manager was there at that club at the time when he came in?
I did, but I didn't really know who he was at the time, and I was very playful with him in the club, and maybe not quite as, I mean, I was certainly respectful of the man and what he had accomplished, and but I was, you know, just having a little more fun with him than most people, because I think he can be quite a presence and people are intimidated, and you want to be on your best behavior if you want to get a gig like that. But I was just kind of having fun with it, and I think that worked in my favor.
Yeah, and like being able to have fun too, it kind of shows him your personality, and like you said, a lot of people would want to be on their best behavior, and so it's good to give him a good first impression like that. What opportunities did doing vocals for Mr. Seger actually open up for you after that?
I think one of the biggest opportunities that, besides working for Bob and being just in awe of him as an artist and a human being, was the fact that I got to work with these two other women, Laura Creamer and Sean Murphy, who have been with him for many years, and it taught me so much to be able to work with these women who have been with him and in the industry, and how to hone in on my skills, and taught me how to be a better singer and how to have a better stage presence, and just I really enjoyed working with them. They really took me under their wing. And also, I mean, let's face it, it opens up a lot of opportunities for you to work for somebody like him. It also opened up my meeting Kid Rock and working for him as well. So
yeah, and coming up to ask too, how was getting in touch with Kid Rock? Like, how did that begin actually to do vocals for him?
I received a call once again to go to his home studio.
Oh wow!
And you know, it's a whole different vibe, and I was rather nervous. I mean, I was certainly nervous with Bob as well, but I was with other singers. We were doing 3-part harmonies, so it makes it a little more palatable, and you're not quite as nervous when you have other people around you. And with Kid Rock, you know, they had us go in to the recording booth on our own and do some, you know, ad-libs, which made me very nervous to do something like that. But it worked out for the best, because then some of the ad-libs that they took from my part, along with another gentleman named Andre, they put us on the backgrounds for all summer long, which turned out to be a huge hit for him. So it just goes to show that sometimes you might be uncomfortable stepping out of your comfort zone, but it can really lead to something pretty extraordinary, and I loved working for him as well.
Yeah, that's very incredible too. Like you said, you know, that opportunity ended up being on such a major hit, like you said. So what have been some of your favorite local gigs, maybe in like the Detroit area or maybe closer to home up here?
I think one of my favorites was when we got to open it for Joe Cocker at Pine Knob.
Okay.
I mean, everybody calls it DTE now, but I still call it Pine Knob, and I love Joe Cocker, and to be able to get onto that iconic stage was extraordinary, and look out and just see, you know, so many people, and just take it in and really just be proud of the moment. We got to meet Joe Cocker after, which I was really happy about too. Awesome. So we were flying pretty high that night. That was fun.
Really neat. And yeah, and especially being in your home, you know, around the area at least, must also add a little bit to the hometown glory for you. So I understand that you've been nominated for a local award, actually. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
I have. They're the Detroit Music Awards. Okay. And I've been nominated for the pop rock category.
Congratulations.
And for the blues rock.
Very nice.
So vocalist, and we'll see what happens. I'll keep my fingers crossed, but it really is. I know it sounds like a cliche, but it's an honor just to be nominated. So.
Oh, definitely. Well, we all wish you the best of luck with that.
Thank you.
Definitely. So far in your career, what has been your favorite performance of all?
I don't have one in particular, and I think back to something pretty recent. We were at Madison Square Garden with Bob Seger, and Bruce Springsteen came and sat in with us.
Oh my gosh!
So that was a pretty extraordinary moment, and just a lot of gigs that I have around town as well. I'm just so grateful to people that are having house concerts now, such as my friend Craig Carrick, at the Black Crystal Cafe with my friends GW and Claudia. I really appreciate their support. So we have a lot of fun playing at the house concerts now, and I love Callahan's Music Hall up in Auburn Hills. So there's numerous gigs that I've really enjoyed playing over the years. That's
very cool. And what would be the farthest one from home that you actually had to do, if you had to remember to when that was?
With my own project, or with Seger or Kid Rock? Or?
Just probably all together, like any of them. Which was the farthest?
The farthest away probably would have been up in Toronto, I guess. I'd like to say that I've had a European experience, but I haven't yet with touring and with music, but I will.
Okay, yeah, on the way, definitely.
I will, it is on the way.
That's very cool. So what have been your most successful songs as talking your solo career?
We cover a lot of other people's tunes as well, because I enjoy doing other people's songs and putting my own spin on it. I consider myself a stylist. And also I have written some songs, and I love doing a tune I wrote called Enjoy the View. I think I've been pretty successful with that, and I've had other artists in the area ask for the lyrics because they've wanted to cover the tune as well, and that was a very high compliment to me that they wanted to do one of my songs. So, and I love covering anything by Led Zeppelin. I'm a huge Zeppelin fan. Love Robert Plant. Love the whole configuration. So
very cool, and yeah, it definitely fits your rock voice. You know, you have to say too. So, being a musician of your caliber, what would you say your average day entails? Because I know it's hard to imagine for us common folk, you could say, who don't get that experience.
When I'm on the road, because when I'm home, trust me, it's probably very similar to what you're doing, walking the dog, cleaning the house. I mean, but when I'm on the road, when I was on the road with Kid Rock, we had tour buses, and I think many musicians that have toured on the road and been on a tour bus for many years, they can tire of it. But I was so excited about the idea of taking a tour bus. So you spend many hours just traveling from one destination to another and just getting settled into your hotel room. But with Seger, we had our own private jet. That was definitely living the dream. It was quite a shock to come back to commercial flying and again. But once again, get into your destination and you have the cars pick you up, take you to the hotel. You just get settled in because you want to just feel like you have some sense of home around you at all times. And we would have a day off when we come into the city and just acclimate, and then the next day we would leave for sound check around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you spend about an hour sound checking, and then you go into catering, and then everybody just kind of lays low before the gig. Got a couple hours just to relax, and then you start to hear the music come on before you're going on, and the opening band, and the adrenaline starts to rush. And,
yeah, definitely.
And then you get to do what you love to do.
That's so cool. And the way the day plays up too, I imagine just that rush that builds, coming up to the time you have to perform. So do you have any gigs coming up maybe in our area that might be accessible by our viewers?
Absolutely. We've got a couple coming up. There's a place called the Lone Oak Vineyards. It's outside of Jackson, Michigan. You can just go onto loneoakvineyard.com. And I'm going to be playing there with a group that I have, 2 other women. We're called the Blood Sisters. Okay. So it's an acoustic trio, but we also open it up to a full band at times. So we'll be there on May 5th. Okay. And then we have a private gig on the 6th that we're performing at as well. And then I have a full band as well. It's Barbara Payton and the Instigators. Okay, wow. You can find us at barbarapayton.com. And we have a whole full schedule coming up this summer of gigs. So I'm not recalling some of the specific dates right now. I think one of them is on June 2nd for a Pride Fest down in Motor City. And so you can just look us up on barbarapayton.com or Facebook. It is Barbara Payton Musician. Okay, and that's really exciting. I mean, you must be pretty busy, with all the different, having that band with the 2 other ladies and then your own, full-piece band. It's very exciting, I must imagine. So what words of encouragement do you have for anybody else aspiring to become maybe a professional singer or just a professional musician in general? I would say that, just follow your dream, as corny as that sounds, and don't let anyone discourage you, because like I stated earlier on, Bette Midler, one of my favorite performers, was told very early on that she didn't have any talent, and she decided to ignore that, and for that I'm very grateful. And as much as I appreciate on some level the shows like American Idol and The Voice, I think sometimes those can really discourage people from moving forward if they've been cut from the show early on. And I applaud people like Jennifer Hudson for moving forward regardless of being cut from the show, because she clearly has talent. And I think if it's something you're really passionate about, then just move forward with it.
Yeah, definitely. Just never lose hope on your dreams, the biggest thing. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Payton, for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's been a great pleasure.
I appreciate it.
We'll be back with more after this.